What if the reason you struggle to make or keep friends isn't your fault? What if the distance you feel from people isn't a sign that you're broken, but a sign that your mind has been trying to protect you? In the next few minutes, we're going to unravel a truth most people never hear. Friendlessness isn't a personality flaw. It's a psychological adaptation. And once you understand it, the entire story of your life with people begins to make sense. There's a kind of silence some people live with, not the peaceful quiet after a long day, but the heavier one. The silence that follows you into crowded places. The one that sits in your chest when your phone lights up, but it's only an app notification. It's the silence of knowing you have thoughts to share but no safe place to put them. You don't choose this kind of loneliness. It happens slowly, quietly, the way a shoreline erodes grain by grain. One day you just realize that the world keeps moving around you, and you're watching it from a step too far back. People assume those without friends want to be alone, that they're antisocial, that they prefer their own company. But that assumption misses something deep, something almost invisible, because the psychology behind having no friends is not simple. It's not about disliking people. It's not about being awkward. It's about survival and how the mind reshapes itself after years of subtle hurts, disappointments, withdrawals, and unspoken fears. And the most surprising part, your brain, in its attempt to protect you from future pain, may have unintentionally made connection feel harder than ever. In this journey, we're going to trace how that happens, and how, piece by piece, people can rebuild the ability to connect again. There are signs that begin long before a person ever says, "I think I have no friends." They're quiet, easy to overlook, but they shape everything. It often starts with small moments, a message you type and delete because you don't want to bother anyone, a story you almost share but swallow back down, a tiny victory you celebrate alone because you don't know who would genuinely care. At first, it just feels like life, but slowly, those moments gather weight. You start noticing how differently you move through the world. You linger on the edges of conversations, unsure when to speak. You laugh half a second late because you're watching others, trying to decode their expressions before reacting. You overthink your tone, your timing, your presence, as if simply existing socially requires strategy. And while all this is happening externally, something even more profound begins internally. The brain, deprived of consistent social connection, starts to adapt. Not dramatically, not all at once, but subtly, like dimming lights. Neural pathways responsible for reading faces soften. Your ability to sense intentions becomes a little foggier. Interpreting tone or body language takes more effort than it should. It's not incompetence, it's biology. A brain that hasn't practiced connection begins to forget its rhythm, the same way unused muscles slowly weaken. And ironically, the more disconnected the mind feels, the more it guards itself. You become hyper-aware of other people's reactions, scanning for rejection even where none exists. A late reply feels like disinterest. A short message feels like irritation. Someone cancelling plans feels like confirmation of every fear you've carried quietly for years. These aren't dramatic events, but to someone already feeling alone, each one lands like a subtle warning. A whisper that says, "Be careful. Don't try too hard. Don't hope too much." Not knowing that this whisper isn't intuition, it's a wound speaking. And wounds, left alone too long, start defining the way we see the world. Friendlessness rarely begins in adulthood. Most of the time, its roots reach back further than people expect, into classrooms, playgrounds, living rooms, and moments you didn't know would leave marks. Maybe it started with a simple exclusion, a group project you weren't chosen for, a birthday party you weren't invited to, a circle of kids whispering, laughing, and closing the space just enough so you knew you weren't welcome. Maybe it was a friend who betrayed a secret you trusted them with, or a group that slowly drifted away without explanation, leaving you wondering what changed or what you did wrong. These experiences might look small from the outside, childhood conflicts, normal growing pains, but to the developing mind, they are lessons. Psychologists call this social learning. The brain takes emotional experiences and turns them into predictions. Predictions become expectations. Expectations become patterns, so the child learns, being open gets you hurt. People leave eventually. If I care too much, it'll backfire. It's safer to stay a little distant. The brain, trying to protect you, builds quiet rules. Rules that stay with you long after childhood ends. You start sharing less, revealing less, depending less. Not because you want to be alone, but because vulnerability got wired to danger. As years pass, these protective mechanisms become invisible walls. You hesitate to reach out. You downplay your needs. You assume people are just being polite. You expect friendship to end before it even starts. And here's the painful paradox. The more you expect rejection, the more your mind filters the world to confirm that expectation. A neutral expression becomes disinterest. A delayed reply becomes avoidance. A quiet friend becomes a fading one. Without realizing it, the lessons learned in childhood keep repeating themselves. Not because the world is cruel, but because the brain is still protecting the child you once were. But protection has a cost, and that cost is connection. When real conversation fades from someone's life, an internal one takes its place. And at first, it feels like a sanctuary. Inside your mind, you can be honest. You can speak without being judged. You can replay a moment and ask yourself what really happened. You can imagine friendships the way you wish they could be. Warm, simple, safe. But over time, that inner world becomes louder than the outer one. It absorbs things that were meant to be shared. It becomes the place where you unpack every emotion alone, not because you want to, but because there's no one standing close enough to hold even a small piece of it. You replay old interactions endlessly. Did I sound weird? Why did I say that? Did they pull away because of me? You analyze tone, facial expressions, pauses, half smiles, half sentences, as if decoding these tiny details will reveal a truth you're terrified to face. You rehearse future conversations too, crafting perfect lines you'll probably never say, imagining connections that might never happen. Social life starts happening in your mind instead of your reality. And this internal world, while comforting, creates a dangerous illusion. Inside your head, you can be yourself without fear, but there's no one there to reflect anything back to you. Without external feedback, thoughts begin to spiral. Fears grow louder. Beliefs become rigid. You start convincing yourself of things that might not be true. That people don't like you. That you're too much. That you're not enough. That every silence means something bad. The inner world becomes both companion and captor. It shields you from rejection, but it also shields you from connection. It lets you imagine a life full of understanding, but it keeps you locked in a place where no real understanding can enter. And the longer you stay inside that world, the harder it becomes to step outside of it. There's a misconception that people who struggle with friendships lack social awareness. Often, the truth is the opposite. Many people without friends develop a kind of heightened emotional intelligence, not because they're socially active, but because they've spent so much time observing from the outside. When you stand at a distance long enough, you start seeing things others overlook. You notice when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes. You sense when a joke carries a hidden tension. You can tell when a group's energy shifts, when someone is pulling away, when someone is faking interest, when someone is performing a version of themselves to fit in. It's a strange gift. You understand social dynamics better than people comfortably living inside them. But this clarity becomes a double-edged blade. The more you see through surface-level interactions, the harder it becomes to participate in them. Other people seem satisfied with friendships built on small talk, shared memes, occasional drinks, and light conversations about nothing. But you're not looking for that. You crave depth, the kind of connection where silence feels safe, where you don't have to pretend, where the bond isn't built on convenience or proximity, but on truth. Yet depth requires vulnerability from both sides. And vulnerability to someone who's been hurt is one of the most terrifying things in the world. So you wait. You wait for someone who feels safe enough to open up to, someone who shows genuine interest, someone who won't flinch at your intensity or your honesty. But while you wait, others misread you. Your silence looks like disinterest. Your caution looks like coldness. Your depth looks like distance. And so, without meaning to, you push away the very connections you hunger for. It's not a lack of desire for friendship. It's the fear of building something fragile and watching it break again. When you live without friends for long enough, something subtle and painful begins to happen. You stop seeing yourself clearly. Friendships act like mirrors, not perfect ones, but ones that reflect pieces of who you are, your humor, your strengths, your quirks, your softness. Without those reflections, your mind begins filling in the blanks alone, and it rarely fills them kindly. You start noticing only what you think is wrong with you. Your flaws feel louder, your mistakes feel bigger, your strengths begin to look insignificant or invisible altogether. So when someone does show interest in you, your first reaction isn't excitement, it's suspicion. Why me? What do they want? They'll leave once they really know me. This skepticism might feel like intuition, but it's often an old wound speaking, trying to protect you from being hurt again. And then comes the loop, the psychological cycle that traps so many people in isolation. Less connection leads to more anxiety, which then leads to worse social performance, then confirmation of fears, and even less connection. It starts small. You try to join a conversation, but you second-guess every sentence. You reply too quickly or too slowly. You laugh at the wrong moment because you're busy analyzing the room. Your mind keeps whispering, "You're doing it wrong." That whisper creates tension. Tension creates awkwardness. Awkwardness convinces you that you don't belong. And suddenly, even simple social moments feel like tests you're destined to fail. What makes this cycle cruel is that you're aware of it. You know you're overthinking. You know you're withdrawing. You know you're acting differently than the real you. But knowing doesn't break the loop. Because the loop isn't logical. It's emotional. It's conditioned. It's built from years of feeling unseen, unchosen, or unimportant. Some days, you try again. Other days, you resign yourself to solitude because it feels easier than risking embarrassment. And slowly, quietly, the belief begins to settle in. Maybe I'm just not meant for people. But that belief isn't truth. It's fatigue. It's the exhaustion of trying alone for far too long. There's another layer to friendlessness that people rarely acknowledge. The world around you doesn't make it any easier. Society is built on the assumption that everyone has their people. You're expected to have someone to call when something good happens, someone to invite you out on weekends, someone who shows up in your stories, someone who knows your birthday without checking. So when you don't have those people, you begin to feel like you're failing at something everyone else seems to do effortlessly. You start declining invitations because you don't want to explain why you have no one to bring. You avoid group activities because you don't want to be the one standing alone. You learn to dodge questions about your plans, your social life, your friendships, because the truth feels too heavy to say out loud. And all of this becomes even harder in the digital age. Every scroll shows someone's friendships on display. Group photos, inside jokes, trips, celebrations, effortless laughter, people who seem to fit together without trying. You're not jealous of the moments, you're jealous of the belonging. Social media turns connection into a performance, and from the outside, it looks like everyone is part of something. Everyone but you. Comparison becomes almost automatic. You start believing that other people were born with some social instinct you never received, that they understand something about relationships that you somehow missed. And yet, the internet has also become a lifeline for people who feel alone. Anonymous communities, comments from strangers who understand your thoughts better than people in your real life, places where you can express yourself without fear of being seen too deeply. These digital spaces are safer, but they also highlight what's missing in the physical world. You can disconnect anytime, which means nothing is at risk, but nothing becomes real either. And while navigating all of this, another pattern begins to form. You become grateful for any kind of connection, so grateful that you start tolerating behaviors you normally wouldn't. You become accommodating, flexible, easygoing, overly understanding, not because you're naturally that way, but because you're afraid of losing even the smallest amount of closeness. It's an exhausting performance, pretending you're fine, pretending you're not hurting, pretending you're not alone. But beneath all of that, pretending is a simple truth. You don't want dozens of friends. You don't want popularity. You just want one or two people you can genuinely be yourself with. And for some reason, that feels harder to find than anything else. Here's the part most people never hear, the part you deserve to know. Nothing about the way you've adapted makes you unworthy of connection. Nothing about your silence, your caution, your depth, or your sensitivity disqualifies you from being understood. These traits weren't born from weakness. They were carved from survival. Your brain didn't betray you, it protected you. Your distance wasn't rejection, it was self-preservation. Your solitude wasn't a flaw, it was a shield. But shields, once useful, can become heavy. And eventually, they stop protecting you and start enclosing you. The turning point begins quietly, with awareness. Connection doesn't rebuild through a dramatic moment. It rebuilds through small, brave acts. Replying to the message you almost ignored. Saying yes to something you would have declined. Letting yourself be seen 1 inch more than feels comfortable. Allowing someone to care, even if your instinct is to question why. Healing isn't loud, it isn't fast, it isn't perfect. But every time you choose presence over withdrawal, hope over resignation, curiosity over fear, your brain rewires itself. Neural pathways strengthen, your social instincts return. Connection begins to feel less foreign, less dangerous, less like a test you must pass, and more like something you're allowed to experience. And here's the final truth. People like you, deep feelers, careful thinkers, quiet observers, often make the most loyal, thoughtful, emotionally intelligent friends. Not despite your loneliness, but because of what it taught you. Before we end, there's one more piece of this story that deserves attention. Many people who live in long periods of friendlessness begin to disconnect from their own milestones, especially their birthdays. The day becomes a reminder of who didn't show up, who didn't remember, who never celebrated them. If you've ever skipped your birthday, downplayed it, or pretended it didn't matter, you're not alone. There is a whole psychology behind why people avoid their own birthdays, and it's deeply connected to everything we explored today. So if you want to understand that part of yourself even more, the next video, The Psychology of People Who Skip Their Birthdays, will take you there. It might just explain a part of you that you've never had words for.